What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop, episode 44 and part 2 of 8A Madness. We talked about quarterbacks a little bit in the offensive line yesterday. Today, again, we are joined by Brooks Walton, but let me introduce my co-hosts as well, Daniel Locke and Baba Tomato, taking off of his very busy schedule, helping Larry find his hairbrush. And, well, Brooks, how you doing, man?
I'm good. It's fun to be back.
Brews Day with Brooks. We're going to have to order this man a microphone at some point, guys, and just go ahead and send it to him.
Yeah.
He looked a little wigged out by that. It's all right. We'll make it work.
No. I just don't want to be screwing anything up. I hope I don't sound too bad.
No, you sound great. I was just saying we need to get you we might be able to get you a little boom mic action going on. Make people feel like they're in your living room.
That would be great.
It'd be sick. They're not as expensive as you think. Anyways, welcome back to 8-Day Madness. Welcome to 8-Day Madness. Brooks, we're excited to be building up, and we're talking football. I don't know if you've heard yet, but it's 7 under 7 this week. 7 shows, 7 days. It really wound up being for Dylan. It wound up being like 9 shows in 8 days. And for the two of us, we both got the Auburn Daily Show as well this week. So we are loading ourselves heavy on some 8-Day content, and we're really excited to be bringing it to you guys. If you're watching the YouTube version of this one, before we even get going, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell. Big shout out to all you guys, all of our new followers and subscribers. Really excited to have you guys on board. Welcome to the Loop. Boom. Welcome to the Loop. Maybe I'll tweet it just on behalf of that. And let's talk ball, guys. 8-Day is 5 days away.
Yep.
4 days as this comes out. Excuse me. And Brooks, we got a linebacker in the room right now, so we can't not talk about what 8-Day looks like for these Auburn linebackers. But before we get into the kind of breaking it down piece by piece, from a linebacker position in that room, what did they tell you guys going into spring practice, or specifically 8-Day, but into spring practice in general? What does a successful 8-Day look like for you guys in a successful spring practice that you know that you have either A, gotten better, or B, at least impressed the coaches?
It's all about knowing what to do. That's all that spring ball is just like learning everything that you can. And so they're going to throw everything they can at you. The offense is going to throw absolutely everything. You know, they might throw some fun things in towards the end to get the fans all excited, but it's all just about, you know, if you're where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, making the right calls. That's what the coaches want to see. Like, obviously, if you can't execute, if you're not finishing the play and making the tackle, that's not very good. But more than anything, they would rather you be in the right spot aggressively and do that correctly, and then just miss on the tackle or miss on maybe a side that you pick, as opposed to going, you know, being timid, or if you just completely end up in the wrong spot. That's when they're like, all right, look, we've worked on this for 3 weeks now. You have to know this. This is the biggest stage and you've forgotten it. And that's a massive miss.
I get that. That makes perfect sense. And we talked with ESPN 106.7's Jacob Goins yesterday, and he was talking about a lot of people blow it out of proportion. 8-Day is a scrimmage. It is a glorified practice with an eagle flight, and the band and the whole nine in the pageantry. That being said, there's got to be a little element. Maybe I'm just misspeaking here, but you guys got to like circle 8-Day at the end and just be excited for that, right? Like that's something that you look forward to.
Oh, it's really, really fun. Surface level, 8-Day is the end of spring ball, and you get a break afterwards. And everybody is super excited for it. You get your little summer break right afterwards, depending on how the schedule is. So that in and of itself is fun. But more importantly, yeah, I mean, you always hear about it, but you are just tired of practice every day, in and out. And you have little scrimmages during spring ball to kind of prepare you for 8-Day and everything, but it's just not the same. And the scrimmages aren't as intense as 8-Day. And you get out there and you're in Jordan Hare and there's fans, and it's everything. It's as close to his game day as it'll get for you before you actually start getting into the season. So it's really cool because you get to go out there, you put on the jersey, you get to run out. Like, it basically is game day. And you go out there and play a football game. And sure, there's stipulations on, how they want to set up the scrimmage and everything. And they might do a special teams period in there as opposed to throw it all in it like a normal game time. But it still plays, and you're still out there basically treating it like a full game, and you get to go out and play football, which is that's what they're there for.
That's right. Speaking of, you brought up a good point about the formatting. Dylan was able to go to Coach Hugh Freeze's press conference and watch open practice today. So that's super cool. He got his own little credential, and he was cheesing pretty hard. I have a great picture that says the credentialed loop now. So that's pretty awesome. Dylan, let everybody know. Just go ahead and break it down for us since you were there and you put it in the Twitter space, the Twitterverse, if you will. And then I want to get Brooks's thoughts on this year's formatting. I like it. And then Daniel, I want to get your thoughts as well on this year's formatting for how A-Day seems like it's going to go. Dylan, break it down for us, and then let's get everybody's thoughts.
Yeah, so this A is a little bit differently. Last time it was usually the second team offense with the first team defense and the first team offense with the second team defense, just kind of battling out in normal game scenario. But this season, Hugh's doing it a little bit differently. It's the defense versus the offense. Defense gets a set number of points, maybe like 24 plus, somewhere around there, with the opportunity with a pick six scoop and score to get more points. So the plan for this game is the offense has to come back and win. Using all four of the quarters really to come back and take the lead from the defense. And that's just pretty much how it's going to go. I assume it's going to be just switching out every possession, quarter, or what. I don't really know. He didn't really go that far in depth with it, but yeah, new format for A-Day, not a normal practice game.
How would you have liked to do that, Brooks?
That's fun because you always want to be as game specific as you can. And so as opposed to just going out there, and that really makes it more of a competition atmosphere. Like the ones versus the twos, you get that every day in practice, and it can get pretty intense. But that was fun. But we had seen that every day beforehand in spring ball. So when you come out there and putting points on the board, and then the defense, you say, hey, here's what you got. You got to stick with it. Offense, they have a goal to get to. That's a lot better than just saying, hey, go out there and try to score points. Like there's a number you can look at, you can get to, and then the play calling changes, and it's good practice for the coaches and how they're going to operate in like hopefully what becomes like a high stress type situation. So I saw that on social media that it was going to be like that, and I'm really excited because that makes it more realistic, and everybody will get into it, and it'll feel pretty intense by the end. Hopefully, if things get pretty close.
Right on, Daniel. Your thoughts on the new formatting? I think that this is actually a good platform. Your thoughts?
Sure. I like it because kind of like. I don't know. I covered A-Day last year, and I'm gonna be honest, it was just kind of hard to watch.
Well, I can't guarantee it won't be this year.
But this just at least from the jump, this is more intriguing than like I know from the very get-go that I'll be more excited to get up Saturday morning and go watch this, after the amazing Frank Thomas gets his much-earned statue unveiled. So I don't know if I'm ready to put like a stamp of approval or a seal of rejection on it yet. I just kind of need to see it first.
I think from a fan perspective, it'll be more entertaining. I think that's
Sure.
There's that.
Hugh also brought up another thing he would like to do. I don't know if y'all saw it on Twitter. So Hugh actually wants to implement. I don't know who he has to talk to go do this. I'm sure it's someone high up in the NCAA. But instead of doing spring games like normal, where it's going to be like Auburn versus Auburn, maybe implement like some of the smaller in-state schools like UAB, Troy, South Alabama, Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Tuskegee, who's like right there, to kind of help with ticket sales because it'd be more of an in-game environment. And he also said that all proceeds go to like a charity of some kind. I feel like that'd be really cool. He also said that the injuries would be decreased by 50% by having.
Yeah, I don't know where that number comes from. I'm not entirely sure that's true.
I'm not entirely sure about that myself.
But you get the quarterbacks non-contact.
Maybe for your squad.
But I mean, with Auburn versus like Tuskegee, they don't play. I don't think they've ever played together. At least to my knowledge, they probably played sometime in like the early 20s. Whenever that was like a normal thing to play. I don't even know, is Tuskegee an FCS school or they
FCS?
FCS. But it'd be fun. You have a unwritten rule that don't hit my quarterback, I won't hit yours.
Right.
It kind of makes it easier to scout the players because it's kind of hard because we talk about the wide receivers all the time, and with wide receivers in practice, they're going up against some of the best DBs in the SEC. So maybe they won't look as good as they usually do in game scenarios because you're going against the best. And I don't want to say Auburn wouldn't lose to a UAB or anything, but I mean it'd be fun.
I don't disagree. Brooks, would you like to have been able to strap it up against someone not wearing an AU logo?
Yeah, you get tired hitting the same people for sure. And there's little beefs that start early on in spring and they just continue on. And so, yeah, it'd be really cool. That's a fun idea. It's the other side of it. You could say, like, you're setting yourself up to kind of be super disappointed if you were to drop a game to Tuskegee or UAB or something like that. But I do like that idea a lot, and to do it all for charity, that seems really, really smart and really fun. But yeah, also the coaches, like, they're football coaches for a reason, and they really like to have their hands on everything. And I think it'd be kind of interesting to hear coaches and try to see if they could collaborate on what they want to see done versus their own defense or things like that. But overall, it's a really cool idea. I don't know if it could ever work, but that would be a lot of fun. It would bring in a lot of people to watch.
For sure. Let's talk nitty gritty now, Brooks. Let's talk this linebacker room, and that's why we've got you here. I know Dylan and Daniel are locked and loaded with some nitpicky, I guess, questions, or just nitty gritty questions. I'll start broad and then let them kind of have the floor. So it's y'all's after this, gentlemen, and I'll shut up. But what is a successful day, or what are you looking for, and what do you want to see out of this particular linebacking group? It can be some specific guys, some specific schemes. What are you looking for in A-Day in the 2023 installment, year one under freeze?
You got to see some guys. I think you've got to see some guys kind of take charge. We don't have any previous starters staying. You know, we lost, I don't know what percentage of our linebackers snaps this year, but a super good amount. And so we've really got to have, whether it's some of the transfers, whether it's Wesley Steiner, Cam, or Jake Levant, who got put on scholarship last year, like any of these guys, you got to have somebody that goes out there and a pretty casual fan can be like, oh, this is the guy that they're trusting, that's on the field the most, that looks like they know what they're doing. You got to have one or two guys show up like that, because then you set yourself up there at the end of spring to say, here's our guy. It's still a competition all throughout the summer, but at least it's not in complete limbo where we don't know who's going to step up, because kind of you have to have somebody there, or else everybody's fighting for the same, and you have to have somebody really kind of take charge.
Right on.
Yeah. And it looks like the returning starters are taking charge, because whenever I forgot who asked the question, but whenever he started talking about the linebackers, the only new guy that got mentioned was Austin Keys. We always talked about DeMario Tolan and his impact coming from LSU. He was kind of like an afterthought in the conversation, because he just kind of got brought up like, hopefully it was like he laid all the guys that were performing well. You know, Steiner, Riley, Keys got mentioned, Woodyard. I mean, most of your old teammates, really. But DeMario Tolan kind of was like, hopefully he progresses. But it kind of goes into like a spring scenario. When they bring in like a transfer position, they brought in 2 transfer linebackers. Is there a bit of a more pressure on the returning players to do better? Because usually when you pick up a transfer player, it's like, this is your replacement. This is the guy who's taking over your position. And so what is like the thought process when a transfer comes in for your position?
Yeah, it's definitely new blood and new. There's not really any hard feelings, because everybody, you know that the transfer portal is a thing, and you also have the option to go to another school where if you want to compete there. So, but yeah, it's definitely, you kind of get the feeling of, hey, here's somebody that the coaches don't know as well. Here's somebody that I don't know as well. Like, and I've got to compete against this person again for the same position. And it's just a new feeling, kind of energizes things. Yeah, and it can be a super good thing, especially they mesh super well personality wise with everybody. Then it just becomes another person there, another, a good teammate there that's pushing you to do the exact same thing, because they're there for the same reason.
All want to win a championship. Mm-hmm. Daniel, floor is yours if you wanted to chime in. Sure.
So, is there a guy in this room that you just have really big expectations for?
Yeah, I love, like, Cam Riley has been playing really, really well, and he played well while I was there, and then he kind of came into his own last year and has looked really good. And I mean, I talked about it kind of some last time I was on, but like, he's got the length and the size and the explosiveness that he could do super, super well. And I'm really excited to see where he could end up, because you get a guy that's 6'3" playing linebacker like that. It's not a shape really. So really excited to see what he can kind of piece together this year with a lot more responsibility.
I'm interested to see. There's a handful of names, and Dylan kind of hinted at DeMario Tolan. Is it commonplace? And when we were talking about transfers a little bit here, especially in a position where you've got to do so much at like linebacker. I mean, there's a million different responsibilities you have as a linebacker. Is it difficult for guys to when they transfer from one location to another? Is it typically picking up a scheme, or can it really be a developmental thing sometimes? Because not to read too much into it from what Hugh Freeze said today, but it almost feels like there's a little bit to be desired from DeMario Tolan, a guy that I am probably going to have to eat my words on if that's true, because I was kind of jockeying for him to be a starter come SEC play. How does a progression look like in terms of you talk a lot about you got to know where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do, but is there like a pecking order or hierarchy here? I hope my question is not getting too cloudy, but like where a guy can come into a new scheme and just not progress on a level that you would expect. Does that happen like often?
I wouldn't say often, but I mean, it definitely can happen. Sometimes, especially with transfers, like things that would fly at old schools don't fly wherever you transfer to, whether that's, maybe your old coach way, way, way more emphasized just pure aggression. And if you're used to playing where, if I shoot a gap, but I still make the play, that's cool. If you come to a new school where that's not okay because the coach says, yes, you made the play, but look what happens if you don't, you left your responsibility. So there can be kind of a learning curve there on the coach's expectation and what the player is used to doing. There can be that. And then, also, I mean, most of the time you don't see pure 100% starters transferring. It does happen, but a lot of the times the guys that transfer are guys that don't get as much playing time. And there's, there might be a reason for that, whether that's just, pure football knowledge, or they didn't mesh with the old coaches, or it really could just be kind of simpler things of, hey, we really need to work on your understanding of gap responsibilities more. And it can be little things like that. And, that might hang a guy up for a while, and it could just get kind of stuck before you get over that hump. So every person is totally different because every person is coming from a completely different football background. And like, you might have had a really, really good coach at a not good school you were at, or maybe not as well of a coach at a super big time school. And so it's everybody's coming into this one spot, and they've got a new coach that doesn't know them any more than they know the coach.
I guess I could definitely see where that would happen. It's one of those things where when you hear that about DeMario, you're like, wait a minute. Like, this is a guy that we all had our eyes on. He took OP's number. He's wearing 0 this year. Like, one of those guys you're like, it's not like that's a 7 LSU number, but like, it's one of those like, hey, look at me. You know what I mean? Kind of concepts. And you kind of expect them to follow suit. So I don't want to say alarming, but also something that you want to keep an eye on and monitor, right? You mentioned you were really excited about Cam Riley. And you mentioned Wesley Steiner. There's an interesting, Dylan, is interesting the right word, mix of guys in this room. How many different looks can you see in terms of pairing guys or rotating guys in and out at that position before you get to a point where it's too congested? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's the good thing about having a room where there's not 2 guys that are way above everybody else, because you can plug in different guys for length, for size, for speed. You might have a guy that you only want to bring in like super kind of dime type looks and big time passing situations. So that's where you want to be able to trust everybody. Like, you're going to have your guys. You're going to have somebody like how OP was, where, this guy is who we trust no matter what. But you don't want the second string guy to be somebody that you can't have on the field. And so, also just pure fatigue, you have to be able to move guys in and out, because you can't have a linebacker playing every single play of the game most of the time. Some guys are just built incredibly, incredibly different. But for the most part, you have to be able to rotate people and trust guys. And it comes down to kind of how the coach might be feeling about this particular drive, or just honestly who's having a good day, or if somebody twists an ankle or busts an elbow, like, you've got to be able to take somebody and put them in and trust them. And maybe your defense looks a little bit different with this person running the show or this person coming off the edge, but you go with it, and the coaches know the players better than anybody else. So they'll play call around them.
Right on.
And most of it might be a scheme thing. Auburn's going into the season with more of a 4-2-5 with kind of more of a 3-3-5 because the Jack's a linebacker that just primarily rushes the quarterback. So it's a 4-2-5. So how much of the roster, the depth chart making it has to do with the what's the word? The meshing of the
Schematics.
players, well, the two players, their chemistry. Like we saw in 2019, 2020, Owen Papos, Kobe McLean, they had a lot of chemistry. That's why that linebacker core was just so solid when those two were in. How much of it is less the coaches and more of how the players play together?
Yeah, the players get it through just repetition together, and that's when it gets really when they can get scary is when guys are used to playing for like with each other, and yeah, like Owen and Kobe, they knew exactly where the other one was at all times, and so you never saw them. Somebody was in open field, you never saw them both take the same side of a guy. They were always coming in from both sides. Like it just comes through reps and confidence. And yeah, I mean, the coaches have to know, the coaches trust everybody to be together, and you have to, or else you're not doing your job as a coach if you don't have your players prepared and you don't feel like they're prepared. But at the same time, that's why you have starters and you have guys that are more comfortable out there on the field playing with each other. And a big part of that, you get that in summer ball when you're playing 7-on-7 all the time, because that's when guys are just rotating in and out constantly, and you get pretty good at calling to each other and knowing when somebody's going to pick up somebody on a route. So that just comes with repetition, and that's what it's mostly about. And yeah, the coaches do play a big hand in it too.
I definitely, I feel like there's visible chemistry when a linebacker and core is clicking, and then there's whatever we witnessed last year after Owen went down. We've seen both ends of the spectrum at Auburn in the past half decade, really, and that's no dig at anybody. I mean, you can't account for injuries, but there's certainly an element to it. Daniel, floor is yours.
Yeah. So, like, how good is A-Day for kind of learning the schematics, if that makes sense?
As a player or as a fan, kind of watching and trying to figure out what you learned from the coaches?
Mainly player.
You going into A-Day, it's supposed to be second nature by then. You're kind of not, if you're out there and the coaches can tell you're still learning things, you're still trying to process as the plays are going on, then they're like, hey, you're supposed to know that from Thursday of 2 weeks ago, we installed this and we ran this many plays of this. So by this point, that's what they're looking to see the most, is if you've internalized everything and if you can kind of play without thinking for the most part.
So
All right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
I was
Dylan.
gonna say, for A-Day, if you're like not getting it by A-Day, or if you didn't have it by A-Day, does that put you in a setback with the coaches and just on the roster in general by the time summer comes around? Like, are you seen as like, well, he's kind of falling behind, so this guy's going to step up in his place?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, everybody has something that is not right, and everybody in the position group knows it, because you all sit there and you watch film and you watch everybody get called out for what they've done. So it's not a secret, and it's not any big surprise where we would go out there, and if somebody didn't perform, that other people in their position group would be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. To an extent. And sometimes guys will surprise you in a good way because they're just kind of gamers and they'll show out all of a sudden. Landon King kind of makes me think of that.
You think?
But yeah, seriously. But yeah, so you're definitely, it's not like an all of a sudden setback going into summer where, hey, oh no, this person is, maybe fourth at the mic. Like, that going into A-Day, and it'll be reflected based off of who gets how many reps and everything. But you just carry it on, because yeah, spring ball and A-Day is all just preparation and building, and then summer is still preparation, and then you jump into fall, which is still learning and still going at it. So it's just, every part of it is just to get ready for the season. So they still got a lot of time.
Word. All right, I'm going to pivot a little bit here, Brooks, if you're okay. We're talking quarterbacks as everybody this week. If it's okay with you to talk just a little bit of quarterback talk, we're gonna touch base there. We'll start with, is there anybody on the field that you've ever played next to that feels more pressure on A-Day than a quarterback?
No, I can't imagine, especially a quarterback in this type of situation where you don't know at all who the starter is going to be. Yeah, it's got to be these guys.
That felt like a layup question. That's why I said we'll start there. Let's talk about this quarterback room, guys. And I know we do it every single show. And Daniel's over here ready to beat his head with a pencil because he's tired of talking about quarterbacks. But we're going to talk about quarterbacks because it's what we do here. We've heard a lot of exciting things about Holden Geriner in spring ball, and we've heard a lot of not exciting things about Robbie Ashford in spring ball. And then you know that TJ Finley is going to show out on Saturday because he's good in practice. And you said on the show before that TJ is just a competitor, and that he's just a competitive dude. With the past week, a lot of news has come out, especially about Holden. Where's your head at with this whole quarterback battle, and are you as confused as we are?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's the type of situation where even the coaches know. They probably have guys that not necessarily that they want to be the starter, but guys that they could see are the guys that would need the least amount of steps to become a confident starter. And those are the guys that they're really hoping take those final steps. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I have no clue. It'll be really fun to see at A-Day. But at the same time, I mean, it's a scrimmage. And you definitely can't hang your hat on who does what in spring ball. More than anything, who looks confident out there and who looks like they're playing slowly is maybe more than who's, TJ dropped in a long ball, like a super good, one really good pass. You got to look more at how did he look in the pocket, comfortable with the game. Like, can you tell he's understanding the game more? Because, I mean, yeah, quarterbacks in a scrimmage can be so up and down. It's really hard to tell.
That begs the question: Is the starting quarterback even on the roster for right now? Because you're going in with question marks all over with TJ Finley, question marks all over with Holden Geriner, and again with Robbie Ashford. So, to you, do you think the starting quarterback is currently on roster right now at Auburn?
I think they definitely could be. It just, I mean, you have no idea what type of guy you're gonna get.
It's a great answer.
That's the
no,
best
it's a perfectly fine answer, Brooks. It's just you're right.
It could be, and maybe some guy will really, really figure it out over the summer, and then who knows? We'll look back and say, well, we absolutely should have known that Holden was going to be the guy or whoever. But you get transfers in, and you don't really know how they're going to work out, or you get a transfer in like Zach Calzada who has the shoulder problems and never gets to play. And so it's just completely up in the air. And I'm very glad I'm not having to be the one trying to pick it because I have no clue.
Excuse me for that, by the way, guys. I was trying to mute and I had to clear my throat. Start, bench, cut, Robbie, Holden, TJ.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot. Analyst, Brooks Walton.
We won't expect no
analyst Brooks Walton. All right. Well, I'll go with I trust Hugh Freeze and what he's saying, so I guess we'll start Holden, see how he's doing. He's got a lot of time left too, so get him a lot of minutes
Geriner
playing
propaganda.
Yeah, we'll go on that, and then I don't know.
You're gonna bench Robbie. You're gonna cut TJ. Come on.
Probably, yeah.
You don't want to
just because Robbie's more dynamic. You gotta just hope that something's there.
Listen, I know you played with Tej, and I know you got respect for Tej, so I'll say it for you. And I really don't have disrespect for Tej. I'm just looking at those three analytically. That's my pecking order.
Well,
I agree.
Daniel, I was gonna take that question for you because Robbie Ashford is my guy. I've been behind Robbie Ashford since April 7th of last year. He has always been the quarterback I thought was going to lead Auburn to better places.
The promised land.
But promised land, yes, hopefully. But how hard is it to evaluate a quarterback, especially a quarterback like Robbie Ashford, the dual threat who mostly is a runner? How hard is it to evaluate him whenever you can't really hit him in spring?
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, if a guy comes free around the edge, no matter how quick Robbie is, like he's probably not getting out of here. But that's why they let the players play, and the guys will run by and kind of tag off, and Robbie will still get to throw it, and the D-backs and the receivers will all still get their work. But yeah, it is a little bit different because I personally never played quarterback in the SEC, so I don't know, but I feel like they probably don't have as much of the, hey, I could get killed on this play kind of in the back of their mind in the spring. So they might be a little bit more relaxed than you would typically expect. But yeah, it's just different. And a lot of the times you just kind of, you'll see a guy come through and the play will be blown dead, but you want to see a guy like Robbie just be dynamic and spin out. And then you got scramble drill receivers running everywhere. So it's really tough, but those quarterbacks are throwing a lot, and the coaches are watching everything super closely, so they're doing the best they can.
That was the greatest Brooks Walton response we've had since we've been on the show. And let me tell you why really quick. I'm gonna fire up the rumor mill and loosely interpret what he just said. One was, if Robbie comes near me, I'm blowing his ass up when he gets around the edge, because he's not going anywhere. That's what I read into that. Brooks Walton would have given Robbie a concussion spring ball. Fire up the rumor mill. All jokes. Brooks would not intentionally commit targeting. He's not Smoke Monday. Hey, it's not Smoke's fault, man. He was a magnet. It's not even his fault. Number two, the little comment about him not playing quarterback in the SEC is, I think Brooks has a COVID year, so he's saying to put his name into consideration for the quarterback battle. And to be honest, you got my vote. So,
all right, good. Yeah, I'll take whatever I can get at this point.
I don't know that you would be the slowest to adapt to this playbook in that quarterback room. So, these are things I can say and you can't. So sorry about it. Brooks, it has been nothing short of a pleasure to talk ball with you. And last, like, not super serious question: favorite part of A-Day, and why was it having hundreds of fans lined up? Because I know they wanted your autographs. But what was your favorite part about A-Day? And we've asked you before, but just to bring you back home.
Yeah. So that A-Day was my first real experience, because I started in the spring of my freshman year. And so I really had no idea what to expect. And it's cool. And it's really cool to have a spring game. First off, just the fact that Auburn calls it A-Day as opposed to the spring game, it kind of adds a little bit of, this is different. This is a big deal here at this school. So it's really neat. And then to go into Jordan Hare, it's as close to a game day atmosphere as you can get without it being a game day, but you've still got thousands and thousands of people there for a spring game. And it's just cool. It's the culmination of everything you worked really, really, really hard for the past however many weeks it was. And so you're happy to be there. You're relieved. You're excited. You're nervous. It's a really fun feel.
And then you get to take those pads off and be done with spring practice. Brooks Walton, everybody, joining us this Tuesday, as possibly maybe we'll just make him come on every Tuesday if he's down. We enjoy Brews Day with Brooks. Thanks for coming on, man. Always a pleasure. Dylan, let's cut it back to ourselves. Let's finish round this one out with a little bit of other Auburn athletics news. Yes, a big thank you to Brooks Walton. Brews Day with Brooks, always a roaring success and ultra popular amongst us, at least. And it seems like you guys like it too. Make sure you go give Brooks some love. I guess he's on Twitter sometimes at Brooks Walton whenever he decides to go on the Bird app, which is usually when we record with him. So we should be active tomorrow. Y'all go give him some love. Tell him how much we appreciate him. That being said, Dylan Larck, like I said, you were at spring practice, the Monday practice with Hugh Freeze and his press conference earlier in the day. Give us the rundown. Let us know what we need to know going into A-Day.
All right. So big thing is that Robbie Ashford has been a little on the injured side. It turns out he is getting very close to being fully healthy. So maybe all the bad throws are coming from a sore shoulder. So maybe he's getting flack for just being hurt. But he also said that practices are trying to make all of them count, and with A-Day, he's going to try to make it as fun as possible. We talked about with the new format, and a lot of players were mentioned in this press conference. He said Jarquez Hunter, probably the running backs all the time. This is probably the most stacked position on the field at any time for Auburn. Best running back he has ever coached. Which I can't remember a lot of the running backs that were at Ole Miss, because that was more of a pass happy Ole Miss back in the day. But he's been coaching a hot minute, and I think that just shows what's going to come under the Jarquez Hunter era at Auburn. Also, a big guy that got mentioned, Mosiah Nasili-Kite, a transfer guy that we haven't talked about a lot ever since he committed to the Plains. He has improved the most out of anybody on the defensive line, and has definitely caught Hugh Freeze's eye.
Cool.
A guy who I think might be taking over that defensive end position at this point. So defensive line right now, it looks like Mosiah, defensive end, and the DT and the nose tackle position are going to be Jason Jones and I just forgot Justin Rogers. There we go. with Jeffrey Emba following shortly after one of those two. And edge rusher, Elijah McAllister, big, bold, or Keldrick Fox, or
Right.
Dylan Brooks. It's going to be one of those A-days, I feel like, when you get that. But the big thing he mentioned was what each quarterback has improved on this offseason. And I caught Robbie Ashford and Holden Gerner's. I didn't catch CJ Finley's. But Holden Gerner's big thing, his accuracy, especially on downfield throws, on deep balls, he has been improving on all offseason, really. And I think that's really picked up right after Pro Day, which I guess playing next to Cam Newton, we talked about with Jacob Goins yesterday, playing with Cam Newton kind of benefits that a lot.
Sure.
And he said that Robbie has really been focusing on his pocket presence. He's way more quiet in the pocket. He's not happy feet anymore. He is now trusting his offensive line. I think that comes from the fact this offensive line is going to be one of the best Auburn's seen in a hot
It's
minute.
an offensive line worth trusting.
Yeah. And I mean, right now, from what I saw from the starting five, it's Dylan Wade at left tackle, right tackle Gunnar Britton, left guard Tate Johnson was playing left guard today, former center last year, Cameron Stutz at right guard, and the center Avery Jones. So it's a whole new offensive line, especially if you got Tate Johnson, who's old face in a new place.
Sure.
And tight ends really looked really good today. All five of them, even down to the guy number 47, Ladalgo, I believe was his name. But something that caught my eye on the kind of the bad side, we mentioned that DeMario Tolan was one of them. Landon King had a few drops. A few of them were very catchable balls, especially whenever you're his size, you should be catching those balls. One of them, I don't know if I can post the clip anywhere, but it's in the end zone. And it looks like he just
Not
kind
great.
of it went right over the corner. I couldn't catch who caught it because I was trying to just watch him run the route. But it just went right over him. It could have been grabbed, and it would have been a beautiful catch. But 2-3 drops out of him, it's kind of worrisome. But the rest of the wide receiver core, I didn't see a lot of drops. Jake Cruz caught all of his targets. So
That's my guy.
out there rocking the 82, the old Melvin Ray number. But couldn't really catch a lot of the linebackers. Offensive line looked good, but they always look good. All I could see was the quarterbacks and wide receivers from where we were standing.
There you go. Anything else to add on your report, Dylan?
The facility is great.
Yeah, I bet.
That was my first time in the facility. I was taken away. My breath was taken away. That place was beautiful.
No wonder recruits want to come to Auburn now, or
Yeah,
more so than before.
I should have taken a little stroll and maybe got lost in there.
Should have gone to the barbershop in there. Apparently that's about to be up and running. Anyways, let's keep the ball rolling here on the College Loop. Got a couple more things to talk about before we can let people enjoy the rest of their Tuesday. Daniel, big news from the women's basketball world. Aicha Coulibaly has entered the transfer portal. What does this mean for Auburn women's basketball? What does this mean for AC? What does this mean for your mental sanity?
Sure. So, kind of going through the list you gave me here. Sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. Okay.
Sure.
Johnny Harris, in her 2 seasons on the Plains at this point, has not had an SEC roster.
Yes.
If you're listening to the podcast, I just dropped my pencil to imitate a microphone. Even though it's kind of funny, I always have a pencil in my hand, so you might think when you're watching that I'm writing stuff. I'm not. There's no paper here. I just like the pencil. Anyway, so I think it's one of those things that kind of sucks in the moment, but ends up being pretty good because a lot of stuff has come out recently, like how good of a teammate was AC? How good was she in the locker room? What was her relationship like with Coach Jay? So it sucks because it was either her, but it was between her and Honesty Scott Grayson for who was really the best player on the team this year. So, I mean, obviously it sucks to lose an on-court presence like that, but this opens up a scholarship. We can go cook in the portal.
I don't disagree there. And also, like you said, a lot of controversy surrounding a number of these young ladies. about meshing of attitudes, more, I guess, philosophies, and not necessarily meshing well with the Coach J philosophy and scheme. And you know what? Like you said, that's part of life. So that's just kind of like you said, it could get worse before it gets better. I personally think Coach J is probably going to cook pretty well in the portal this year and bring in a nice little class. You've not seen Caitlin Duhon declare for the transfer portal yet, which is a little bit surprising in my opinion. But you keep honesty Scott Grayson, and if there's one player on that court last year that I was not that I never doubted about whether or not she was playing for Auburn, it was honesty Scott Grayson, as opposed to playing for the name on the back. She was playing for the name on the front. And there is something to that effect. We talk a lot about X's and O's, but ultimately, if you're not coachable, you're not coachable. And it sounds like that may have been the case with Aicha Coulibaly. And if that is, it's unfortunate because she's a very, very talented basketball player. And she will wind up somewhere else within, whether that be within conference or within the Power Five. She will be a talented basketball player and really impact somewhere else and maybe go to a contender that could really elevate their game. That being said, I think this is probably long-term. I think in the long run, this is in the best interest of both parties for Aicha Coulibaly and Auburn to part ways. Moving forward, Daniel, I mean, what a meltdown in Gainesville for Auburn baseball. You look like you've got it in the bag on Sunday after a blowout win Saturday, not really showing up. Blowout win Friday, not really showing up Saturday. And then Sunday, you're up 8-3, and then you wind up getting the doors blown off you. I mean, what the hell is going on with this pitching staff?
Yeah, well, like we said on last Friday's show, no, last Thursday's show.
I get it. I follow the science.
That we were just expecting one win. And on Friday, they went down. They got that win in convincing fashion. We're like, oh, shoot, man. This is going to be a good series. And then I like to call this the Boston Red Sox effect. You know, you get that one win that you're like, and then the next night you're losing to Pittsburgh. So you translate that over here, you know, they got that really eye-popping win. Then Saturday, they get the brakes beat off them. And then Sunday, this is another thing that the Red Sox frequently do.
Lay an
They
egg.
build up like a multi 5-6 run lead. You know, things look pretty good. And then slowly but surely it crumbles away. And you're like, what? I almost had to censor me there. Like, what just happened on the
Oh, yeah,
field?
you're the one that needs censoring on this show.
Yeah. You're damn right. Yeah, so just not it had so much hope, you know. Go down, win a series against Florida. That would have done wonders for conference play. That would have done wonders for RPI. It would have, if they had gone and taken a series against Florida, I like our chances of hosting a regional a lot more than I do as we currently sit here.
I don't disagree. And Dylan, it was another one of those pitching meltdowns. Guys, Chase also just does not look like he's got the confidence right now. I mean, he got himself into a mess. And I don't get too critical of Butch. I really don't. Why the hell was he in the game so long? It felt like also just stayed in and just got himself into more and more trouble. And I respect trying to let him clean it up. I get that can help rebuild confidence going forward too. But I mean, you got to scratch your head and go, what was going on, man? Let's flip it to the other side of the diamond. Dylan, Auburn softball got the job done over Ole Miss, winning that series 2-1. You were able to go on Sunday in that's probably one of the tightest softball games you've been to, honestly.
Yeah.
And a good game. Holy crap, Maddie Penta, you are so different. Yeah, bow down to the Pentagon. I know we were a little not worried, but like a little upset for her that she was getting no help for a little bit there. Auburn's figured it back out. And they've now won 5 of their last 6 conference games.
Yep.
I think the Tigers are in decent shape. What were your takeaways from this past weekend, Dylan?
Well, the offensive Maddie Penta is just her. But offensive side of the ball, batting is a bit inconsistent. And by bit, I mean very inconsistent.
Sure.
It could just mean the SEC is loaded to the pitching, just pitching in general, but
It is.
yeah. But It took Auburn, I believe, 6 innings to get a hit, and he just kind of took advantage of Ole Miss pitchers kind of throwing balls all the time. That game, so much stuff happened. I met up with Emily Ellis afterwards to get her take on what happened when Auburn scored that run, because Auburn tried to steal second base on a walk and advance the runner from third to home, and I was all over the place that game. I had Ole Miss fans screaming on my right ear. I had my girlfriend screaming at Ole Miss fans on my left. And I had a pitcher's duel in front of me. It was a wild experience to go to. Tightest game I've been to at J.B. Moore. But Auburn won it. Auburn took the series. It was a lot of fun.
The wild, wild west that is SEC softball.
Yeah.
Certainly in its epitome and its pinnacle. Busy week for Auburn sports. Got a busy week coming up. Got a couple midweeks we'll talk about later on and recap those. Got a lot of football content coming y'all's way here at the College Loop. Like we said, it's a 7 under 7. If you're watching the YouTube version, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell and comment along. Let us know where your headspace is at in terms of the quarterback conversation. I almost said the football conversation, but I guess that is one too. The linebacker room, why you love having Brooks Walton on the show so much, just like we do. And give us your thoughts on what we can do better, what kind of content you guys want to see here. We've got some really, really special stuff coming up for you guys at the end of the week, and I'm not done telling y'all about it. We're gonna let new rumors fly as the week goes on. Firing up the rumor mill is what we do best here. Daniel,
you can also send me a letter.
What's up?
I said you can also send me a letter.
Send him a letter. I love that. Daniel, tell everybody where they can find you, love you, support you, and send you a letter.
I'm at on Twitter at Daniel J. Locke. There are 6 outlets I contribute to. Pick one. As far as the letter goes, I'll work on getting a P.O. box set up.
Make sure you guys follow along any Auburn student media outlet and the Opelika Observer and the Auburn Wire. Did I get all that?
And Auburn Daily for what I'm filling in for you.
The Auburn Daily when you're playing dress up as me, which that's a hell of a cosplay. Anyways, I'm Harrison Tarr, by Harrison Tarr on the Bird app. That's like you're reading my byline where you can conveniently read more written content at the Auburn Daily. You can listen to more of my podcasting work every Wednesday and Friday on the Auburn Daily Show. Every Wednesday with the wonderful Dylan Larck, and every Friday with the legendary Lindsey Crosby. You can also find all of my additional podcasting, TikTok, reel things, whatever I send to Dylan, and he does his little magic right here on the College Loop, typically every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. This week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Got that out as quick as I possibly could. Super excited. Happy 8A Madness to those who celebrate. Happy 8A Madness to those who don't. We're super excited. Once again, welcome to all of our new subscribers here on the College Loop YouTube channel. And thank you guys for following along. If you're listening on the streaming platforms, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're really excited to have you guys on board. Welcome to the Loop. Dylan, get us out of here, my man.
Yep, I'm Dylan Larck at your boy the Tank on Twitter. That is at YABOY the Tank. If you're watching, it's just right above me. Make sure I get it that time because my dad told me I did it wrong on the last episode. And catch me on the Auburn Daily Show every Monday with Lance Daw, who you'll be meeting very soon, and on Wednesday with Harrison Tarr. Catch us on the College Loop on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. But Tarr, don't have a MySpace yet.
RIP MySpace, man.
You gotta get on that. But for all y'all out there, make sure you wear your sunscreen. And there's been the College Loop Podcast.